Welcome to Board Game Homies, where a group of friends play, review, and share about all things board games. Sitting around the table today are
Reed, Becky,
Gillian,
and I'm Angela. Today we are reviewing Ark Nova, aka I like big decks and I cannot lie. But first, let's talk about what's bringing us joy.
I'm really excited to play Expeditions Gears of Corruption, which is the new expansion to Expeditions that Stonemaier is releasing soon. As of recording this, it goes on pre-sale tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to adding that to my collection. Becky and I I bought Expeditions kind of on a whim. I was really into Scythe at the time. I wanted to buy Scythe, and Expeditions seemed like a nice segue there because Becky and I often play just two players. And so Expeditions looked like it played pretty well at two players, and I liked it, but I didn't love it after I got it. And Gears of Corruption, I think from what I've heard and kind of the previews that I've seen, it seems to fix a lot of the issues that I had with Expeditions, just in terms of the very slow beginning to the game, in terms of the exploration where the map tokens actually do something when you flip them. And so I'm excited to play Gears of Corruption. There's a corrupted mech that goes around and kind of occupies spaces and absorbs your resources. So I'm excited to play that one. That I won't get it in hand for a while yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
I'm really glad that you are excited about this expansion because I enjoyed that game when we played it the first time and was kind of disappointed that you were like, no, that was fine.
I think it's interesting to think about expansions as fixing how a game plays. I usually think of them as adding new things or kind of reskinning it in a way. But I know that with Terraforming Mars Prelude, it's kind of like you need that to play that. So it's interesting that that's a whole thing with expansions.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Jamie Stegmaier took a lot of the user feedback for Expeditions and incorporated it into the expansion mechanics. And so I really appreciate it when publishers do that, or designers rather, hear that feedback and they actually incorporate it into, either a revised version or expansions to modify rules.
Jamie is really amazing. When we did the apiary episode, I kind of did a deep dive on their website, and he responded to every single comment people made. They had questions about how things played, and they also made suggestions, and he replied to everything. He is so on top of it, and that guy is so cool. And his cats.
Yeah, it's really awesome, especially getting to know a publisher. He puts a lot out there and I think really has a vision of services that he wants his publishing house to have. And I've enjoyed so many of Stonemaier's games that it makes me want to go and play more. Now, Scythe, we've only played once, Reed and I, so we haven't played Expeditions. And this isn't the game that I'm excited for, but I'm also really excited to play Expeditions because I think building a really great brand of games with a really good identity, he's very clear about what they're adding and what they don't add, makes it so that I know what I'm getting from a publisher, whereas some other games I'm kind of like, they made this game and then they made this game? That seems weird. So I really want to play Expeditions when you get the expansion, but I want to play it before and after the expansion. So just one more game on our to be played game list.
Now that I have a better view of the board game shelf in front of me, which seemed to have been a problem when I was recently purchasing the Red Cathedral without having seen it, I'm looking over there and I'm seeing that Gillian and Becky have Root, and we've talked about it a lot as a game that we're interested in playing, or some of us are interested in playing. And I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the idea that the game is really reliant on asymmetry, more so than it seems like a lot of the other games that we've played. So I'm looking forward to that and glad that Gillian just recently got it.
I feel like such a nervous Nelly about Root because it plays so asymmetric. And I feel like I'm a nervous Nelly about a lot of games and then take a dive into them. And then it's usually not warranted. But Root worries me. I don't know if it's going to bring me joy because it's so asymmetric, but I enjoy playing with friends and getting to explore that uncomfortability of this game.
You can be like me and just pick one faction and refuse to play anything else.
They're so cute. They're little animals.
I know. I'm going to be the vagabonds, the little raccoons. They're the best.
Yeah, Root was an interesting decision on my part. I don't have very fond memories in the couple of plays that we've had, largely because the groups we played with and nobody really knew how to play. We just kind of jumped into it and it was a very rough experience. But I I think I really missed out on that, and so I want to give it another shot, and opted to just kind of dive in and, go for it. And since then, they've come out with a couple of expansions that make it a little better or I should say a lot better for 2 players. And so that might be a way for Becky and me to learn the rules so that, we can teach you too and have a more successful experience.
I really appreciated that when I went over to a friend's house for a board game night, they have Root, and I was looking at whether or not I should play it and texted our group thread, and Gillian said, hey, if you have a bad play, don't let it set you off from the game. It's a game that you might have to play more than once, and I appreciate that. We didn't end up playing it, but just knowing that sometimes the first time or a couple of times that you play might not be that easy.
I think you just need to have exposure to it beforehand and not learn the rules as you play. That was
that's interesting.
Ill-conceived.
The game that's bringing me joy is also tied into my birthday, which doesn't always give me joy, but this one is definitely going to bring me joy for this birthday. In fact, it's all of our birthdays this summer, and I decided my birthday falls in July, so I'm going to be bold and brave coming off of our last convention experience, and I'm going to go to the Portland Game Collective convention that's up in Portland, I think the 3rd week in July, and the Portland Game Collective focuses on trick-taking games, and I'm going to be bold, and I'm going to talk to people that I don't know, and I don't know how to play a lot of trick-taking games, so I'm going to try and learn as many as I can. But when I was purchasing my ticket, I was also purchasing a game from them called Haggis. And Haggis, I think if I remember right, is a climbing game, and it has something called bombs. And when I was in high school in history class, we would finish all of our history work and we would play what I realize now was a trick-taking game called 13, and it would involve bombs. And so you would play this super set hand that would just blow up everything, and it was basically kind of like a way to win, but they were really hard to get. So I'm excited to see if Haggis has something like that and see if the Portland convention gives me a little bit of joy, and I'm really excited to expand my knowledge of trick-taking games.
I am so proud of you.
I'm just real brave, Becky.
MLEM has been bringing me a lot of joy lately. I have been thinking about it a lot and wanting to play it. There was one day we were going to play it, but then someone forgot to bring it, and we played something else, which I'm sure was wonderful. But so it's just been on my mind lately, and we have been playing on Board Game Arena, and we have a MLEM game going, but it is turn-based? Is that what it's called? Okay. And so MLEM is not a game to play turn-based over many, many days. But so that experience, even though I don't want to continue that game on Board Game Arena, but it makes me really want to play MLEM in person because it's so pretty and it's just a silly, fun game.
I love MLEM, and I recently borrowed Angela's copy because it was sold out everywhere, and I was trying to get it for my kiddo because he loves cats, and I did recently buy it on the secondary market, so I can return Angela's game to Angela, and then we can play it more often.
Yay!
I'm excited to play MLEM as well.
Except now you have to say it into the mic, and then you have to think of something really great. Say a thing.
Why are you excited to play MLEM?
Are you excited to play MLEM?
I am. I'm just trying to think about exactly what I'm excited about. I thought it was just a fun, easygoing game. So I'm excited.
I think it fits in the Thunder Road Vendetta, a lot of energy, quick pace, dice, cheering, booing. It's fun.
Yeah, I think if you can get your hands on MLEM, it's a great ad. Somebody had recommended it, I think on Board Game Geek. I had listened to a podcast and they'd played an early version, and I thought my girlfriend would play it because of cats. She's not played it with me, which makes me very, very sad. But there's a genre of games that I think that crunchy gamers maybe wouldn't like that our group really enjoys. And so I'm glad we're not a stereotype of only dry beige Euros and big decked cards with strategy, and that we can be really silly and play games like Spots and MLEM, things that bring us joy, even though they're not what you would consider crunchy gamer level.
What I've learned from all of this is Becky only enjoys playing games that have domesticated animals in it.
talking about a game that includes non-domesticated animals, Ark Nova. Released in 2021, it plays 1 to 4 players from Furlan Spiel. It's designed by Matthias Wig and art by Stefan Beeker, Lorik Bailu, Dennis Lawson, and Christopher Tisch. My apologies for all of those names. The expansion Marine Worlds was released in 2023. Gillian, how do we play Ark Nova?
In Ark Nova, each player will plan and build a modern, scientifically managed zoo, and this will be done by constructing enclosures for animals and supporting conservation projects to ensure the preservation of animal species. This is done over the course of an indefinite number of rounds that's really determined by how well players produce or contribute to conservation projects and construct or build the appeal of their respective zoos. So the game ends when those two tracks, conservation and appeal, intersect, and at that point the game end is triggered and people see how well their conservation matches up with their appeal, and the person who has essentially crossed those the most wins. And so you really are trying to build a kind of scientifically managed zoo in that you're really trying to work on the conservation of the species as well as the appeal for drawing people into the zoos. And so during the game, you have 5 actions that you can take, and those actions are going to be defined by different powers depending on where they are in spots 1 through 5. Level 5 abilities are going to be more powerful. Once you use a level 5 ability, it goes to level 1, and then it'll have to build up as you kind of rotate through the different actions. And so they go anywhere from building enclosures, spending money to build enclosures, spending money to bring animals into your zoo and occupy those enclosures. And then other ones allow you to do association with other partner zoos or universities to get scientific discoveries in place, thereby helping you work on the conservation projects. And so you really have to manage these actions and the flow of those actions so that you are able to be the most efficient that you can be by building enclosures before you put animals in them, and also making sure that you are meeting the requirements for the conservation projects. So in the center of the board, there is a river of cards of sorts. 6 animals are there for people to take and add to their hands that they can then play into their zoo. That row or that river of cards is going to flow throughout the game as well, and that once somebody takes a card, another card backfills it, and those cards slide down. And when a break is triggered, so it's another mechanic in the game, when a break is triggered, we'll get their association workers back, and the next player will go. And so that river of cards helps you select animals that you want to bring into your zoo. And so the animals are placed onto your board through kind of polyomino placement. So the enclosures that you add onto your board vary in size from kind of a 1 hex piece to a 2 hex piece to up to a 5 hex piece. And so they can fit different types of animals, say like a barn owl can fit in a 1 enclosure, whereas a grizzly bear will need a 5 size enclosure. And so all of the animals have different requirements that you have to meet. You have to be partners with certain zoos. You have to have a certain number of predators into your zoos and all that. And so you really have to be the most efficient matchup with conservation projects that are both public and private in your hand, and try to make the most of what you get and build the most modern, scientifically based zoo.
But there are petting zoos.
And Reed, I do recall your one game where you really focused on the petting zoo and no science. You struggled.
And I did very well. I think that's the only game that I've played that I came in at a positive number.
I mean, I like this game. I put this in that era. If you enjoy big deck games, such as Terraforming Mars, Everdell, Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition. Would you say that Wingspan is a big deck game, or Wormspan? It just has a lot of cards. There's over 150 cards in this deck, and you're kind of trying to churn through them. And I like this. I actually thought maybe I wouldn't, but we kind of took a chance on a Dent and Ding sale because I love me a game on sale. And I was surprised by how much I like going through these cards, which are really beautiful. They're photorealistic. I know I listed off a number of artists, but they're all kind of like these beautiful photos. It's a little bit different than the art on the Wingspan cards.
And I'd say this game reminds me the most of Terraforming Mars, the original Terraforming Mars game, in that you have kind of a central board that you're working with, but in this case, in Ark Nova, you have your own personal board rather than a shared board that you're building out from. But it's kind of the same tableau builder of sorts. The tableau is less important except for trying to chain these different animals to play other animals into your tableau. But it's similar in that regards because you're still trying to match symbols. You're trying to meet common objectives that are available for everyone to get. And you still have a large deck of cards that you're trying to work through. And it kind of has the same problem as Terraforming Mars in that there's so many cards that you might not always see what you want to get in order to make your engine really hum.
Okay, and speaking of Terraforming Mars, I think it's the reason why when you first started talking about Ark Nova, I was not interested at all because I saw the cards, like just pictures of them. And I think I was scarred by Terraforming Mars artwork. I was like, ugh, it's going to look like that. It's going to be awful. I do not want to play this game. I have zero interest. Zoos and the cards are ugly. I don't want to.
Becky, I showed you Ark Nova long before you even really glanced at Terraforming Mars. So I feel like that's not a valid
No, I disagree
reason.
with you.
And that's how they got divorced.
Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
No.
I wanted Ark Nova back before we even met Reed. Did you look at Terraforming Mars before you met Reed?
But Ares Expedition.
Ares Expedition was way
No,
different.
it's
though.
nice.
Yeah. But maybe that's why you guys hadn't played it.
I guess I'm just wrong. I don't like saying that.
Certainly not on our podcast to all 8 listeners. That would have been terrible.
We have 14 followers right now. Thank you very much.
But only 8 listeners.
Yeah, follow us on Spotify where we will track you.
No, I swear, Gillian.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, please disregard that, Angela, almighty recorder goddess.
Absolutely not. That's staying in the pod.
Speaking of Terraforming Mars, even though, as I was just reminded by my wonderful husband with a better memory than me, that I had not played Terraforming Mars before Gillian started talking about Ark Nova, I was hesitant to play the game just because of the zoos and like the way that the art worked. I wasn't really into the photorealism stuff and like, is it a photo or is it not a photo? And then I think once we did meet Reed and played Terraforming Mars, the board game, then that really cemented in my brain like, wow, if the artwork is going to be like this, I don't want anything to do with this game.
The artwork is much better in this game
Yes, it
than in Terraforming Mars.
Yes, there's very good colors that match up with the corresponding animals. I think our only complaint around the art is the back of the cards are maybe a little bit simplistic, but it is what it is. I really like being able to put polyominoes down, and I feel like that's what makes this different than Terraforming Mars, is that Terraforming Mars has a little bit of a polyomino puzzle, but not what I would consider really a selling point of that. And my personal player board is kind of like a puzzle because these animals will have certain requirements. So you have to build the enclosure next to water or near rock. And that can make it interesting. And there are certain things you can unlock on your board, like extra rewards that you get. And so where you place those initial tiles and everything has to be connected to another tile, which is very polyomino style. I like that. Like, it's just it's not very much, but I enjoy that little extra that I get to play on my board. So every game maybe feels a little bit different than the game before.
Yeah, and I would say it's very interesting in that when I went into this, I assumed it was going to be very multiplayer solitary, which it is for the most part, but there's a lot of interaction that, once again, as was the case in whatever game it was, might have been this, Angela always steals the cards that I want right before I have a chance to grab them.
It's not my fault.
There's some good banter in this game. I feel like it's like, oh, I'm so frustrated. I just, held on to that monkey for 6 rounds and didn't end up playing it or whatever. You took my cards. I feel like there's some energy there.
Yeah, to the solitaire point, I can see how that is a thing. But the last game we played, and now we have a number of plays under our belt, I think we opened this up a few weeks ago and have just binged it hardcore, which is how much we've enjoyed it. But we were playing a game. Becky couldn't make it, and it was the three of us. And I saw Gillian building, I can't even remember, I think it was birds or lizards. And I look over and I'm looking at all of his like lizard tags. And then the perfect card comes up for him. And I was like, oh, I have to hate draft this card because he can't have it. And just us joking and bantering about when the perfect card comes up and you're like, I'm going to waste my turn so I can screw my friend over because I hate his lizards, is kind of a lot more interaction than I thought I was going to get in this game.
I also was so into my own game. I didn't even know that was happening at the time because I was just focused on what was in front of me.
You're focusing on getting all the sponsors but no animals into your
That's
zoo.
right. That was not a good strategy.
Reed was like, I'm going to try a strategy where
I had like 20 sponsors and 2 animals or something.
No joke, she couldn't place any animals anywhere. And I was like, why would you?
It was awful.
Sponsor cards are these ones that can give you in-game bonuses when the break comes, or end-game scoring, or a one-time ability. And sometimes the sponsor cards come with a very special building that you have to mandatorily place in your zoo. So if you can't fit it, you can't play the card. And in this strategy that Reed was employing was the ability to play every one of those cards. And you can't play animals into those enclosures. So literally, like, only 2 places could she play an animal. And it was really sad watching her be like, more sponsors, more sponsors. And I don't know that you even had the sponsorship endgame card. So it's like doubly sad.
Didn't.
I had it.
You know, it's interesting because I've played this game now several times. And I keep trying to figure out, like, how do I get better? What do I need to do differently? I think I obsess too much about the polyomino board. I think I need to stop trying to fill the board. That could be, like, the one consistent thing that I do each time, and I just need to let that go.
Yeah, I did it the very first game we played, and I haven't been able to fill the board since. I think it's kind of a rare thing, and it just depends on how you approach the game, but I think that is kind of a red herring, is to try to pursue that as an every game goal.
It's worth 12 points if you fill it. Your map gives you 12 or 7 points. 7 points. But then there's a card that gives you 5 points. So at most you would get 5 points. There might be one other card that allows you to do that. But you're talking about, like, if I had put in a grizzly bear and made points off of him, it was probably better. This is probably the first game that we've dived into together as far as all learning it. None of us had played it before. We kind of started learning about it, reading about it, watching videos, that kind of thing. But the first time we all played it, we played it together. And our first play was only 4.5 hours.
3.5.
Yeah, it was only 3 hours and 41 minutes. I double-checked the stats.
Oh, I'm impressed, which sounds about like half the time that a normal 4-player first-time game goes. So I think we did pretty well.
I was really intimidated. You really deep dived into Ark Nova, and you're like, oh, they all say 4 players awful. It's going to be terrible when we learn this together. One of you's out. Like, it only can be 3 of us. And I was very impressed. Like, we all did our job watching videos. Some of us read the rule books, and you listened to a million hours of Ark Nova stuff, and like all together we did it. I was proud of us.
Something that I think is fun about this game, just as I think games can be cheeky and I enjoy that, is kind of the hidden Easter eggs within the game itself. So the designer, Matthias, I think that's how he says it, maybe not, appears on one of the cards called the Arcade. And then the Wingspan designer, Elizabeth Hargrave, also appears on the card about birds. And so I love these little hidden Easter eggs of different things hidden within a game. Like, I like not taking itself too seriously. And unlike Terraforming Mars, which has no personality in kind of the art and no personality in the cards, it's just really like a vessel for the symbols to give you points. I find that this game doesn't take itself too seriously in, I don't know, just kind of its je ne sais quoi of fun images. And it's not just a vessel for the card text and for the symbols and the points.
That is such a harsh hot take of Terraforming Mars.
I know. I was just going to say that Terraforming Mars, before I played with you all, I would definitely say was my favorite game. And it has lost popularity amongst myself. Probably as a result of that hot take.
Well, I think you can look at again, it's a game designer who's not doing anything maybe terribly unique. Like, I think a lot of the mechanisms you can find in other games. I just listed off 5 other big deck games, which, there are other games that did that first. And it brings in all these really fun pieces and brings you a delightful puzzle. And that's what I kind of enjoy about it. Like, the art, is it crazy unique? No, it's not anything. But it's well done and it's pretty. And the designer was like, let's just have some fun. And I don't know how you feel, but I just got that vibe. Like, I think I'm in love with Ark Nova right now because it's just saying, let's have some fun. And that's nice.
Yeah, and I agree. The mechanics, I definitely recall reading that they had pulled it from different games, and I have no qualms with that, and especially because it comes in to such a well-formed package in Ark Nova. But yeah, the action selection mechanic where the cards just slide along as you take them and you have to plan ahead to take advantage of a card when it becomes the strength you need it to be, to the score tracks crossing and triggering the end game. I just think those are so fun and they work so well in this game. And I really enjoy those aspects. And how gaining appeal is not only one scoring metric, but it also determines your income at the beginning of each break or the end of each break. So yeah, I really enjoy those mechanics.
I do think this game feels very satisfying when everything is working together, when your when your hand of cards is working with the conservation projects that are on the board or what you have in your hand, when you're getting some of the cards that are going to play off of the cards you've already played, or again, help you with those conservation projects. But I do think it struggles with being able to get what you need, like a lot of the big deck games do. And in my experiences, I think that like when this game is frustrating, it's frustrating. Like, it's frustrating to just do anything. And so like one of the games that I ended up winning, I think by over 20 points, like 3/4 of the game, I was just frustrated the whole time because I was like, nothing is working together. And it just felt like I was struggling. And then I ended up winning, which I felt bad that I was annoyed for most of the game. But I think for me, there's something about this game where when you're not able to build an emergent strategy because nothing is going together, like you're just throwing spaghetti on the wall and everything is on the floor and you're a hot mess. It's frustrating. But there was one 3-player game that we played that, like, I don't know how I crushed you guys because, well, I do know how, because everything was working together. Oh God, sorry, Mike. I crushed you guys when everything was synergized and working together, and it felt so good. Not the crushing part, just like everything is working for me, and it was very nice.
Oh, be truthful. Crushing us didn't feel bad either.
I mean, it wasn't the worst.
I wouldn't know that feeling playing this game because I don't think I've ever won this game.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's funny that you mentioned that because it definitely is prone to imbalance, I think, in how the game goes for certain players and what you draw and what you see and what you have the opportunity to play. But even in those instances, I still find myself really enjoying it because it forces me to think differently than I would otherwise. And I would have to think, well, what action can I take that might help get me out of this situation? Even if I know that I'm behind the 8 ball and not likely to win, I still find it interesting, which is kind of surprising to me because usually I'm the one that gets frustrated in those kind of instances. But for some reason, this game and the puzzle it presents is something that that really resonates with me.
A lot of the content that I listened to about this talked about sometimes you just have to have an emergent strategy because what you plan out and what cards you get don't always align, which goes to what you both were talking about. And I have a really hard time with that. I love focusing on an end goal, and I love the idea of seeing something and saying, like, I'm going to go all birds or I'm going to go all Africa. And then I get stuck on that, and I have a hard time also with remembering that once you put a bird in an enclosure or play a conservation project, you're kind of done with that. And so that's hard for me to let it go because I've invested like half the game in doing that. And, I need to have a different strategy for the next portion. I'm not there yet. Like, I'm not good enough to be able to see how that puzzle fits together.
Yeah, I think there are some other issues that you may have if you decide this is a game for you. One, our first play was long. I would like to think it's not as long as most folks have. I thought we were really proud of that. But this can be a very long game. Like, you're going to spend 2 hours at the table. The solo mode might be 30 to 45 minutes by itself. I also think there are some fiddly rules. We had to look in the rule book for a lot of things because something will say full-throated, and you're like, what the frickety frack is full-throated? Oh, it means you get a new association worker. And I was like, those are not connected. So we did find ourselves having to look up a lot of stuff, even though we felt really prepared going into the game. And I will say the rule book is really clear. They even give you a short glossary that has numbers. All of the cards are numbered, so you can look up. And I thought those explanations, every time I read them, feel very clear. There's only one or two cards that I think every time I'm like, what does this chicken card do again? I'm always confused about the chicken card. But I think those are few and far between, and it is easy to kind of figure out where you're going, but it's not necessarily intuitive. And your first couple of plays may just mean that you're flipping through the glossary of terms a little bit more often and checking what all of those cards mean.
I definitely discarded that chicken card last night. I was like, no, I don't get this.
One thing that I feel like I struggle with in terms of strategy for this game is figuring out the order in which I upgrade cards, because that is a key component of the game. Your 5 starting cards all start on the one face, and as the game goes on, you'll have an opportunity to flip cards to the tier 2 face, in which the abilities become more potent, more powerful. And it's funny because I messed myself up a couple of times by upgrading the wrong cards, and they are sometimes necessary for continuing to progress along certain tracks. And so I blocked myself out of progressing on, say, the reputation track, which is really unfortunate because my endgame goal was to get as high as I could on the reputation track.
I also had that endgame goal and did the same thing. If you don't upgrade the card, you can't go up on the reputation track. And it's very true, because if you don't upgrade the one of the other cards, you can't go up on the get additional workers from the
and sponsorships and sponsorship partnerships rather. Yeah.
And you can't upgrade every card. You
can only upgrade 4, and if you miss a spot, you can't do it. Like, there are some times where it gives you the choice. Do you want to upgrade a card, or do you want to get a new association worker? And if you choose association worker at that, you've then lost your opportunity to do that.
I haven't been brave enough to choose the association worker over upgrading a card yet. Maybe it's a good idea. Maybe that would help me.
I don't think so.
I did it once and it did not pan out for me.
Yeah.
I've also unlocked, and this is the fun part about figuring out a game and all of its nooks and crannies, which is sometimes I think why we replay board games, and you want to get into those crevices and figure out what's going on. But I've had a game where I had so many workers unlocked, there were no more workers, and I was on a worker unlock because the cards, if you get a full-throated, you can hire another associate worker, and so there are ways to get more associate workers, but there's never another way to upgrade a card. So I would agree that I don't love taking that, but I'm sure the kind folks who play in the World Series of Board Gaming may have certain strategies that are emergent that they decide to do that. But I'm not at that level.
Overall, I feel like the turns go pretty quickly, even though this game can be 3 hours for 4 players. But because for the most part, it seems like when it comes to your turn, you know what you're doing. But with the cards, choosing which one to upgrade when, that's the thing that takes me the longest in this game. When I'm excited that I get to do it because I need to upgrade a card, and then I sit there and I'm like, but which one am I upgrading? I'm going to do what should I...
I like that you brought that up because you're talking about turns. I also think that this game requires good communication from people at the table. And we have that, but I can definitely see the struggle. And there's only been a few number of times where I've been like, oh, last turn I should have gotten XYZ thing. So then I go back and get it. But if you miss that like 8 turns ago and you're like, oh, I missed this thing 8 turns ago, that's a little too far to go back. And you just kind of have to eat it. So sometimes there will be a card that says, anytime anybody plays a predator, get $3. And so I think the good communication is you saying, I'm playing this card that says predators. And so when everyone plays a card, our group kind of says, hey, I'm playing a monkey. Does anyone have a monkey thing? No? Okay, cool, because the games will blur together. Or you realize who is playing all of the predators, and then you play less predators. Or you go, geez, Becky, take my money. I played a predator. Rah, 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 rah.
Okay, I have never gotten the predator money. That is always you, Angela. Angela, please take my money.
And once Gillian said, I wasn't playing predators because you had that card. And I was like, stop, play predators.
It is really interesting that and I think we do this in most of the games that we play. We talk through what we're doing because we're so focused on our own stuff. It helps know what's happening, even if you're not watching everyone like a hawk. But yeah, I like that. And then being like, oh no, I can't do that. I think there have been a lot of times in this game where we've been like, okay, I went through all of this. Oh wait, I didn't have the association needed for this card, so I'm going to back it up.
Which is hard when you get combo wombo-y. I think there was a time in the last time we played that I was like, here's this thing, which lets me do this, which means I flip a card, which also means I get this worker. And then here's this thing, and then I get $7. And then you look at it and go, oh, I could only play that card if I had an Africa partnership. And you're like, son of a gun. Okay, here's my $7. Take back this card, flip this thing, do this thing. Whereas if you play it online, it's like, you can't do that. And I kind of appreciate the computer telling me no before I make us all do it. And then you have to unwind, and then you've spent your whole time thinking as it went around the board about this one action. Then you're like, oh, now what will I do? I guess I'll build a pavilion.
Do we think this game is swingy? I ask thinking about like the game Gillian and I played. Last night, I got -20. Gillian got 20. And then, like, our first game, we were all positive. I think we were relatively close. And then our second game ranged from, like, 31 to -11. And I don't remember the other scores we've seen. But it's interesting, like, the game last night that Gillian and I played, like, I just watched him storm up both tracks. And I knew that I was never going to catch up. But I don't know. It made me wonder, is this what I consider this game swingy, and what other games are swingy?
I heard a lot about people talking about how the scores were so varied and that sometimes they do really well and get like 35 points, and sometimes they would be negative 35 points. So I think that there is that fluctuation. I would say that the swinginess that I have felt, which I think we've talked about in Apiary and some other games, where sometimes you can do really, really well, and sometimes you just don't have anything that works for you. And I think one of the games that we played, maybe it was not when you were there, it was, I didn't get any of the cards that I needed. And I was just like, I'm glad I'm having fun, because it's kind of, the game's so long that to be disinterested if you feel like you're not going to catch up would be hard.
I would say it's swingy, for sure. But as I said, I feel like personally I don't have an issue with it in this game. I also didn't, well, I shouldn't say I also didn't, but Apiary, there was one game, there were 2 games that were pretty swingy. One I was very frustrated in, the other one not so much, because I was the benefactor of the swinginess. Or benefited by the swinginess. And yeah, this game, it is swingy, but I find the mechanisms and the gameplay satisfying enough to, I think, outweigh any swinginess that happens.
I think also when you're losing a game, which I seem to be doing more and more, is that if you're losing, you take more risks on how to play different strategies and you try different things. And I feel like losing a lot with this game, I keep trying different things to see if it'll work. I haven't found out the working strategy yet, but I'm excited to keep trying.
Yeah, I think on that note, even if it's swingy a bit because you don't have good. It's really like your opening hand and the synergies and the early conservation cards, and it's kind of a race up some of these tracks. And if you don't get the first step, then somebody's going to come by and you're going to really struggle to get to that first step eventually. But like you said, Reed, when I lose, and I lose a lot, I like learning from what I did. And this is kind of that game where I get to sit around the table with a bunch of friends for a few hours, and maybe I'm going to lose, but also maybe I'm going to learn something. Like I think about that first play in Ark Nova. I think the first card I upgraded was Sponsors. And now I've played so much that I'd be like, that's absolutely not the card I would ever upgrade first. But not even realizing that, right? And I think there's always something to be learned in a strategy, even if it's not about, say, the game you're playing like Ark Nova. But how can I be more efficient with my actions is a thing I can carry into all these other games, because many board games have a theme of like, think about early synergies, think about how you can make connections, think about how you can be efficient with your actions, which is very brass Birmingham vibes. And so every time I lose, even in a swingy game, I'm buoyed by the fact that I get to play with friends and that I get to learn something that will make me a better player maybe the next time I play.
A lot of podcasters have talked about this game, and they have talked about it from different perspectives. Like, it was too hard to get into. I didn't get past that 6.5 hour first play. And some of them have said the first couple plays were really rough, and now it's my favorite game, and I love it, and I play it all the time. And then some have said, I played it all the time and like lost interest after about 20 plays. And so I'm really interested. We've definitely binged this more than most games that we've played. And so to see how this is going to stand up over time and with the Marine Worlds expansion.
Yeah, I'm very excited for Marine Worlds. It is a game that is bringing me joy. And I don't usually run out and go buy an expansion. I mean, sometimes I do. Okay, I'm lying to myself. Sometimes I do. It's why I own all of the Project L expansions. But this was before I had ever played Ark Nova. The Marine Worlds expansion had come out, and everyone was like 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10. Oh my God, most amazing expansion. And I was like, oh, these guys don't. Ugh. How can you sell an expansion 10 out of 10? The base game should be a 10 out of 10 for an expansion. But that being said, I'm so excited for a 10 out of 10 expansion that improves upon a game that I already really enjoy, with a few different mechanics thrown in, like asymmetric action cards. I was like, oh my gosh, and now there's sharks, and I bet you there's going to be a goldfish, and there's an aquarium I can build, and they have upgraded animal bits instead of cubes for your player pieces. So there's a penguin. He's got like a little screen printed belly. And I was like, this is just delightful. So I agree that maybe at play 20, it wouldn't be that interesting, but I'm at a lot of plays, and I think the expansion's only going to make it more interesting.
I'm also interested to figure out, to crack the code on how to play this game solo because I think I've played it solo like 12 times, and it is on BGA, but I have never even come close to winning. I think it's like negative almost 60 is one of my scores. And I'm sure that there are some... Are you looking like that?
Negative 60 is really bad, Reed. Wow.
I don't know how, and that was my latest one, so it's not like it was...
Reed,
the first one.
we told you not all sponsors,
Not
okay?
all sponsors.
But I've tried different things and I've never cracked it. And I'm wondering if there's something like when you play the Terraforming Mars, the solo version, it's like go negative. You don't care about victory points. And I'm wondering if there's something you just like let go of in this game in order to be able to successfully complete it.
I think the key there is to not get too absorbed in like your personal objectives and stuff. The first few plays we had, I definitely looked at my 2 personal go cards, and I focused too much on those, and it blinded me to, being able to adjust on the fly.
I know that we're talking a lot about this, but I do have a question. One of the things that's really interesting is that you can release animals, and releasing animals takes you down on one track, but takes you up what I hope is disproportionately on the other track, so that there's a benefit of doing that. And I haven't figured that out yet because I'm like, I don't want to lose those points I worked so hard for.
Well, I think the releasing animals to the wild can be really beneficial because you go up, say, 4 or 5 points on conservation, which jumps you, I don't know, 15 or more points in appeal, and you lose probably 5 to 7 appeal for those conservation points. So it's a net gain overall. But yeah, it's a struggle to do that. But on the flip side, you do get to free up an enclosure, so you don't have to spend the money to do that later on.
That was the only way I desperately got conservation points in our 2-player game last night. It was rough.
Yeah, I think watching, maybe it was in the World Series of Board Gaming, that a conservation point is worth about 3 appeal points. And so if you lose 7 appeal points, but you gain 5 conservation points, then there might be an evening out. Also, not all of the animals are worth solely appeal points. So some of them are worth conservation points or the ability to go up the reputation track. And so letting those animals go, you still keep those conservation points and those reputation points. And I think those are probably the better animals to let go. I don't love a letting animal go strategy because I don't like losing points, but that could be the way that you have to do it. Also, there's like that sad little worm guy, and sad little worm guy, Slow Worm is his name, Mr. Slow Worm. He's worth like 4 sad appeal points, 4 conservation points, but I'd let him go in a heartbeat. I was like, go be free, man. Get me like 3 conservation points. Live your best life. So there's some sad animals I think about releasing from my zoo. Thank you for listening to Board Game Homies. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and drop us a line on our Instagram page at Board Game Homies. See you next time. Okay.
MLEM.
MLEM.
See ya.
Wouldn't want to be it.